Have you ever briefly witnessed the world tilt, as if reality itself simply forgot where it was and blinked? Yes, the moment when all of the game's titans, boardrooms, and suits just look at you without doing anything. Their power seems hollow, their eyes widen, and their grins freeze. The system didn't anticipate what you did. Something that sliced through the mirrors and smoke like a knife, shattered the foundations, leaving the major actors dumbfounded and defenseless. The universe itself seemed to be whispering, "Not today, not in this manner. Disregard the rules that are revered by everyone else." Oh, how lovely it is when they treat their contracts, boardroom ethics, and small manuals like holy texts. For example, adhering to the lines will shield them from the impending storm. They have been taught to comply, to walk in tidy, predictable patterns, and to remain inside the maze that has been constructed by someone else and claim safety. However, as soon as you intervene, the entire illusion starts to shake. To do what needs to be done, you don't need their approval, consent, or permission. You're changing the regulations in front of them while they're busy measuring their small boxes. Isn't it intoxicating as well? When the pattern breaks, you realize that they don't know what struck them, or that you are the only one painting the globe. They assume that everyone would follow their regulations when they constructed their towers. Then, with a flick of your finger, you disassemble it while chuckling softly in the shadows. You refer to it as clarity, but they call it revolt. You can make them dance like puppets by pulling on any of the rules they adhere to and the rules they revere. However, you don't just pull. Oh no, you bend and twist. You change the strengths until the entire peep got up for the light. And since it's real, it's magnificent. Since it's uncooked, because they won't acknowledge the reality of power. People are afraid of things that are out of their control and don't fit into their tidy little boxes. Additionally, rules serve as their comfort blankets, chains, and prisons. And you are the fire that ignites the blanket and melts the chains. Furthermore, simply breaking the regulations is insufficient. The lines they hold so dear break into a new shape that only you can comprehend, and they must watch helplessly as the universe bends in new ways. There is poetry in shattering the expectations that have crippled people for years, and there is beauty in shattering their faith in order. They believe that progress comes from consensus, that power derives from obedience, and that safety is conformity. You are aware that the truth is messier, uglier, and much more debaucherate. It's the flaw in the flawless machine, the fracture in the system, the pulse of chaos that beats louder than their calculations, their spreadsheets of control, and their never-ending meetings. The world becomes fluid, unstable, and alive as soon as you take a step forward. They are afraid because they are unable to map you or forecast you. They are unable to comprehend why you feel as though the air is working against you. Every blink of amazement, every frozen smile, every dropped jaw, and every quick glance around the room as they search for someone, anyone who can stop you are all signs of their terror, and nobody is there. The regulations are no longer relevant. The only thing that can stop the tempest you've unleashed is pen on paper. You don't break them to get attention, to get praise, or to exact revenge. You break them because someone has to demonstrate what the world looks like when you disobey, refuse to bow down, and decide that the game they call life is yours to rewrite, remix, and turn inside out, until the very air smells different, until their faith in order is a joke whispered in the hallways, until the fear of the blind and obstinate becomes a playground for those who know what true freedom is like. Make the seemingly impossible seem effortless. Convincing others that what you do is simple is the cutest trick in the world. That you don't care about the walls you crash into, the mountains you climb, or the fires you walk through. With their eyes wide and their hearts pounding, they stare, gape, and speak to each other. They also believe it to be magical, that you had it from birth, that because you are unique, the universe simply catered to your desires. Since you're fortunate, perhaps you've struck a bargain with something more sinister than themselves. In actuality, though, it's not luck, it's accuracy. Patience is the key. Like a puppet on strings, pandemonium is controlled. They are also unable to see the strings. They are unable to comprehend the fire behind the smile, the tempest behind the serenity, or the thousand tiny cuts and bruises they will never see because you have already moved past them, danced around them, and rendered them unimportant. Because they are bound by their own limitations, uncertainty, and fear, they think the impossible is unachievable, and you, like smoke, like shadow, like the smile that spreads over a room when something breaks, when order crumbles, when the predictable turns into chaos, you glide right through. And they don't know how you achieved it. They won't realize how easy it appears until they experience the shaking it causes. Every action you perform conveys a message. A gentle reminder to the cosmos that it is not allowed to set its own rules, that the laws of logic, probability, and what ought to occur are merely recommendations for the weak, the timid, and those who are too scared to venture into the dark and laugh. They can't chart your method, they can't hear your rhythm, and they can't put up with your insanity because it's not theirs. Additionally, it gets harder for individuals to accept that it is true the more improbable it appears. You can play on that. You don't perspire, you don't trip, and you don't make an announcement when you get there. You slip, glide, show up where you shouldn't, do what they claimed was impossible, and disappear before they can recover their breath. The impossibility is merely a disguise, a garment put on by fear. And with each movement, look, and careless decision that somehow results in perfect chaos, you take it away. People adore things that are inaccessible, incomprehensible, humble, and cause them to doubt their own existence. And you, yes, you thrive on it. When an entire system they rely on falls around them, you take advantage of the shock, amazement, and fleeting moment of disbelief while you sit there grinning, unfazed, and they promise themselves that they will figure it out, catch up, and replicate it. However, copying is reserved for the dead, the commonplace, and those who are too afraid to take a chance on the impossibly difficult. You take chances, dive, fall, violate the rules, and push the boundaries. As if it were your lover, you flirt with calamity. And all of a sudden for you, what was supposed to demolish everyone else is only a step, a flash, or a breath. And because the impossible is not a formula, their attempts to break it down, examine it, and justify it or an R and a set. It's a beat that only someone who defies certainty can hear a pulse, a scream, a giggle in the dark. Additionally, they will never comprehend that effortless does not equate to effortless. It's the ability to master it. Concealing every wound, bruise, and restless night behind a mask that lets the world know you were destined for this, that you were unstoppable, wild, and unshuffled at all times. They are left wanting quit. How fear could be transformed into art. How someone could make the seemingly unattainable seem completely insignificant. Use action rather than words to silence the doubters. Oh, the sweetest melody is watching their eyes narrow, their mouths flap endlessly, and their whispers curl around corners like smoke, trying to poison the air with doubt, fear, and the desperate hope that you'll falter, stumble, or break under the weight of expectation, because they can't imagine someone who won't bow, kneel, or beg for approval like they do. They are scared, which is why they are noisy. Because their universe consists of agreements and contracts, courteous smiles, and little paper victories. You are noisy in a different way. Not using sound, not with appeals, not with justifications that make sense to them, but with force, movement, and uncontrollable turmoil. Every action you take, every barrier you push, and every unattainable result you extract from the shadows is a dagger to their certainty. They refer to it hatchiness. They refer to They refer to it as careless. And you refer to it as truth, the only important truth. Words are empty containers. They speak as though they are powerful, but you know otherwise. Power is unseen until it transforms the world, silent until it transforms the world, silent until it explodes, and quiet until it wreaks havoc. And that's how you handle doubters. You don't warble. You don't use logic. You don't waste time explaining your genius to people who are too little, too kind, or too And they see and feel it in that acting, in that moving, in that defiance of expectations. Their hearts race and their jaws drop. They have no words left because words can never compare to the reality you make, and their confidence collapses like ash in the wind. In the face of what you've accomplished, every doubter, critic, and snicker that attempted to denigrate you is silenced. Without their noise, the world is already chaotic, and you take that chaos and turn it into a mirror that reflects their own helplessness and incapacity to leave the cage of conformity they have created for themselves. They only comprehend action when it's too late, when it's indisputable, and when it overtakes them like an impassable wave. And the expression in their eyes when they realize it, when the reality of your action strikes them, clears throat. When they understand that everything they believe to be unbreakable is being consumed by the fire they attempted to put out. It is euphoric. It's delicious. It's the sound of the earth mocking their conceit. They underestimate you because they can't picture someone who acts without doubt, laughs without permission, or moves without fear. And you have that benefit. You construct as they speak. You destroy while they speculate. You carry out their plans. And the outcome is a symphony of incredulity, a demonstration of the strength of action over words, and evidence that people who don't waste time attempting to persuade the blind to see are rewarded. Every action you take is intentional. Every choice is a deliberate mess. Every achievement serves as a final nail in the coffin of their uncertainty. And since they are bound by fear, indecision, and the need to explain everything before taking action, they are unable to stop you. You are aware of instinct, impulse, and the excitement of not knowing. The language of action is louder than any argument, lecture, or sermon they could deliver. So when the world looks at you and wonders how, they are unable to express it. As they thrash in their small circles, reiterating their doubts, they are left gasping and gaping at the impossibility you have manifested. But since action doesn't negotiate, it is ignored. Action doesn't beg. Action doesn't look for approval. It gives orders. It triumphs. It modifies reality. And in that remaking, the unquestionable reality that you move silences the doubters not via brutality, confrontation, or hatred. You take action. You accomplish what they can uncuff. And there's a message they can't deny, a truth they can't avoid, a chuckle in the dark that resounds louder than their never-ending babble. It is also euphoric, it is disorganized, it is flawless. Make the most of chaos. Well, isn't chaos the most delightful playground? They are afraid of it. The sound of it makes them shudder. They cling to their safety nets, spreadsheets, and petty regulations as though they could contain the storm. And you enter it head-on, smiling while everything around you falls apart. They become terrified. They yell. They falter. They attempt to comprehend. While all of this is going on, you can see the rhythm, the pattern concealed in the chaos, and the fractures and fissures that give you the power that no one else would dare to touch. Freedom is chaos. Clarity is chaos. The dagger concealed in the shadows that slices through their conceit and reveals the hollow core of their confidence is chaos. They believe that predictability is power, structure is strength, and order is safety. But you know better. You are aware that the true power comes from being able to see things that others cannot, from moving when everyone else is immobile, and from grinning when everything is on fire. You soar through the smoke while they cling to walls. You dance on the brink of catastrophe. You transform every failure into a setting that only you can comprehend, every explosion into a spotlight, and every collapse into a ladder. They refer to it as luck. They refer to it as insanity. They referred to it as careless, and you referred to it as careless, and you referred to it as an opportunity. Every crisis, error, and unanticipated turn is a gift, wrapped in terror, an opportunity to change the rules, and a chance to thrive when everyone else fails. The world is left wondering what happened, why the floor beneath their feet is no longer there, and why the empire they built on order is suddenly shaking under a smile and a plan they never anticipated. You steal it like a thief in the night. Chaos is a mirror, a weapon, a language, and you speak it with ease while they ramble in courteous phrases, attempting to control what cannot be controlled and analyze what cannot be explained. To you, every failed expectation, every shattered assumption, every shaky hand around a boardroom table is a symphony. evidence that fear is pointless. Hesitation is deadly, and the world belongs to those who dare to dance in the storm rather than run from it. Oh, the joy of transforming their anxiety into a performance, their perplexity into money, their desperation into a chance, transforming the chaos into a work of art that only you'll. People believe chaos to be random, but you know it's intentional, it's strategic. If you have the guts to follow it, the intelligence to bend it, and the insanity to embrace it, the world's pulse is throbbing in your favor. They make an effort to resist, restrain, and subdue disorder, but only those who comprehend it, who use it fearlessly, and who recognize the beauty in devastation, the potential in collapse, and the laughter in the shadows when all else collapses, are able to subdue chaos. You also don't wait for approval. You don't request permission. You don't wait for permission. You shift, you hit, you prevail. You turn every mistake, mishap, and breakdown into a weapon that uplifts you, shakes the world, and leaves everyone else stunned and terrified. They can't stop what they can't predict, touch what they can't understand, or survive what you turn into opportunity. It is also euphoric. It is disorganized. It tastes great. Leave the giants stunned. Oh, how delightful it is to see those so-called titans, those kings of their small castles, those emperors of frail empires, gape like kids at an incomprehensible magic trick, at a reality that defies their presumptions, at a truth they never even thought about. They have titles, confidence, and authority that is bolstered by conceit as they navigate the world. And since they constructed their walls so high, developed their networks, understood the rules, and never thought anyone would violate them, they think nothing can affect them. Then you appear, grinning softly in the darkness, and everything shifts. With a single action, decision, or flick of the wrist, the ground underneath them becomes unpredictable. Their trusted maps are worthless, the computations on which they relied are useless, and their expressions, oh, their faces freeze as the unthinkable occurs in front of their eyes, unfolding with a precision that looks effortless, as if the world itself bends to your will while they grab at the boundaries of their kingdoms in shock. You don't try to get their attention. You don't need their approval. You don't ask to be seen. Nate clears throat. You are just a force beyond their comprehension. And in a world of timid murmurs and courteous applauding, the amazement in their eyes is the sweetest applause, the only affirmation you need, the only music worth listening to. They underestimated you because they are only giants in the dimensions they control, in the ways they comprehend, and in the playgrounds they constructed to protect themselves. You, on the other hand, are chaos personified. You are unpredictable, unstoppable, unbound, a shadow that travels where they are unable to follow, a spark in a pitch-black chamber that they are unable to illuminate, and a storm that they never anticipated. They look at you with a mix of confusion, denial, dread, and envy, and you take advantage of it. Their incredulity is evidence that you exist outside of their confines, outside of their rules, and outside of their shaky perception of reality, so you drink it in like wine. And the more you move, the more you bend, the more you redefine the game, until they are unable to recall the shape of their world before to your arrival. This ability to make the powerful helpless, to take those who believed they were untouchable and show them how little, frail, and ridiculously human they are, in the company of someone who does not bow, who does not fear, and who does not bargain with the predictable, is exhilarating. They make an effort to get better. They make an effort to get better. They make an effort to talk. They make an effort to gather themselves. However, they are left staring at the results of their presumptions, frozen in disbelief, trapped in the moment when they realize that control is an illusion, power is ephemeral, and the world bends only for those brave enough to break the mold, because you have rewritten the rules, remade the map, and rebuilt the landscape. You grin because you are aware of the reality that they will never acknowledge. When confronted with someone who moves fearlessly, laughs in the dark, and dances through chaos as though the world were a playground created just for them, their stature, titles, networks, and legacies all fall apart. It is a celebration of your freedom, a symphony of their weakness, and a dagger to their certainty. Every time they hesitate, blink, or try to make synapse, and you use it with accuracy, patience, and the subtlety of a storm building silently before it erupts, leaving nothing untouched, everyone in the dark and the giants immobilized by their own incapacity to adjust. You discover your canvas, your audience, your affirmation, and your drama in that immobility, that frozen gaze, and that moment of total and utter disbelief. And you paint with chaos, cunning, and lunacy until even the most powerful, wealthy, and untouchable titans are left staring at you, not knowing if they are seeing success or failure, genius or crazy. And it's flawless. It is quite beautiful. It is euphoric. It is everything. When no one is around, strike. All while they are preoccupied with breathing, blinking, and believing that the world revolves around their brittle expectations, the sweetest, deadliest delight is passing through the world like a shadow, slipping past their eyes. Then all of a sudden you are invisible, unheard, and unstoppable. All of their dependents suddenly shake like a house of cards during a storm. They believe that greatness must be declared with drums, trumpets, and bright banners, that power is loud and that presence is evident. You know better too. You are aware that the true power, the type that can bend empires and shake bones, lurks in the quiet, in the shadowy corners, and in the moments people brush off as unimportant. You hold off. You observe. You pick up on their rhythms, patterns, telltale tiny ticks, and blind spots because they are too preoccupied with staring at themselves, acting like they are in charge or performing for the public. When the time is right, the cosmos is in sync with your heartbeat. Chaos is calling your name, and you strike. The world is unable to react in time since they were unaware of it. Timing, patience, math, intuition, and insanity combine to create a drink that tastes both thrilling and terrifying, and you consume it as if it were only yours. They are unaware of the preparation, the build-up, and the thousand unseen steps that culminate in the moment when everything breaks apart, the ground shifts, and their power is exposed as a joke, a brittle illusion, a shadow of what they thought it was. They are unable to comprehend that the strike is not about noise, therefore you are chuckling discreetly in the corner. It is about accuracy, about making gasp, about demonstrating to them that exposure is a vulnerability, that attention is a trap, and that the people who wait, watch, and plan in silence are the ones who actually change the world. And how enjoyable it is to watch them fumble, trying to understand, trying to fix, trying to talk, while the reality you've created plays out like a puppet show, that they are unable to stop, control, or even touch because they were looking in the wrong direction, trusting the wrong signals, and blinded by the notion that the obvious is all that exists. And you are the ghost in their machine, the unseen hand in their nightmare, the smile in the shadows that they are unable to follow, comprehend, or anticipate. You don't go on strike to get attention. You don't go for the applause. You don't hit to make an impression. No, that is meant to be viewed by the weak and the desperate. However, you strike because it is the most effective, efficient, and devastating way to bring about change, bend reality, and claim that you are not bound by the same rules as everyone else. The beauty is that you're already gone, moving on to the next moment, and creating the chaos that will leave them scrambling to catch up, always one step behind, always in disbelief, and always frozen in the realization that someone somewhere is moving with a freedom they cannot imagine while they panic, flail, and stare. Clear's throat. Additionally, the strike itself is not violent for the sake of violence. The message it conveys to viewers is that power does not declare itself. It is surgical, exquisite, and tragically lyrical. It appears silently, it bursts covertly. When vulnerability is at its highest, the world is sleepy and attention is diverted, it lands. And you are the master of that moment, the mastermind behind the mayhem, the invisible tempest that leaves them dazed and uncertain as to whether the events were the result of genius. Additionally, they don't care because the impact is irreversible. The harm has been done. The incredulity never goes away. And you go on unnoticed, grinning, knowing that the world is yours to control, yours to conquer, yours to enjoy in the quiet, where no one can stop you, no one can touch you, and nobody can touch you, and nobody can even predict when you'll strike again. And Frida's, that is its Raka and that. You know, the game is theirs only if you let it be. Only if you follow their script. Only if you enter their cage and dance as they instruct. Oh, the sweetest madness is staring at the rules everyone else worships, the boundaries they consider sacred, and the lines they cannot cross while quietly laughing. However, you don't follow anyone's rules, you don't use their map. Because everyone has always assumed that the game is fixed, predictable, and fair, you tear it apart, shred it into bits, and scatter it to the wind while you walk through the carnage with a smile that says both everything and nothing. Abruptly, you show up, shifting the pieces, flipping the board, and rewriting the directions. Nobody is aware of what just took place. In an attempt to persuade themselves that there is a way, that there is a purpose, that the cosmos will somehow bend back into the form they anticipated, they stare at you with wide eyes, their mouths twitching in bewilderment. You are aware that the world has changed, that there is no turning back, and that you can now define, twist, control, and play the game in ways that will make others shudder with terror and amazement. And you do it with a composure that conceals the inner turmoil, the meticulous planning, the unseen mayhem, and the excitement of going where no one had the courage to go before. They are afraid of the uncontrollable, unpredictable, and disobedient. You have an advantage because of that. You leave the arena they constructed, the security of regulations, and the halls of courteous strategy. And all of a sudden, as you forge your own way, the familiar becomes foreign. The expected is destroyed, and the powerful are left clutching at nothing. The beauty of it is that you don't simply win when you redefine the game. Every decision you make, every action you take is a challenge, a defiance, a whisper in the dark that says, I do not bend, I do not conform, I do not obey. You change people's perceptions of what is feasible, how power is measured, and how success can be attained because they thought the rules were sacrosanct, unchangeable, and everlasting. And you demonstrate to them that boundaries are chains, that regulations, clear's throat, are nothing more than illusions, and that real freedom, strength, and brilliance come from forging your own route and challenging anyone to stop you. And oh, the joy of seeing them fumble, the bewilderment in their eyes, the hesitancy in their hearts, the terror in their voices as they attempt to respond to a world they cannot understand. A world that now responds to your vision, your disorder, your craziness, instead of to them. They'll label you crazy, haughty, and reckless, and maybe you are all those things. And maybe that's precisely what makes you unstoppable. They're called queer and rubro, and you transcend right and wrong, beyond their expectations, beyond safe and predictable. And all of a sudden, the playground you built from the rubble of their conviction is far superior to what they believe to be the height of control. And it is intoxicating, exhilarating, powerful, liberating. The smile in the dark that spreads wider than any applause, reverberates longer than any cheer, and leaves the world shaking with the realization that someone fearless, untamed, and untouchable has redefined everything, turning chaos into strategy, fear into advantage, rules into toys, and leaving giants, kings, experts, and critics staring at you in amazement, disbelief, and terror, because the gay has never watched the change. You own it. They are unable to ignore the message conveyed by each step, laugh, and planned risk. A claim that nothing has been resolved. There is nothing holy. Nothing is secure. Because you have defined the game, they will need to start thinking in ways they never would have thought of, acting in ways they never dared, and seeing in ways they never learned if they hope to survive in the world you have transformed. It is broken by you. It has been rebuilt by you, and your chaos is supreme in the rubble of their confidence.